You have a long distance relationship with a narcissist? Perfect. He loves it. He's excited for it. This is the best thing ever. Narcissists love long distance relationships. Long distance relationships are perfect on so many different levels. And let me tell you why. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, healing, growth, and transformation. To be able to open up the door case and to be able to show you, hey, wait a second, this is what's actually going on in your life. Being able to talk through narcissistic abuse, how it's affected you, how it's shown up in my life, all different aspects, so you can actually get the awareness to find your healing, to be able to grow, and ultimately transform who you are today to who you actually want to be. This growth and this process, I joined with many different people to help them partner in a path from where you are to where you want to go. So let's talk a little bit today inside this topic, dealing with narcissistic abuse, and talk a little bit inside this piece of long distance relationships. Why are these so attractive to a narcissist? Attractive to a narcissist in the ways of, hey, all you're seeing and all you're hearing and all you're feeling is typically just verbal. It's through text messages, through maybe phone calls, maybe some FaceTime calls, but you're just seeing a certain version. This means it's easy for him to be able to construct the mask. It's easy for him to be able to sell you on a reality that's not actually true. A while ago, there ended up being a movie that came out inside of Netflix, which is The Tinder Swindler. And all it was this aspect of this guy who's running this big Ponzi scheme, and he was doing it interacting with women in person, but then he was doing a lot of it virtual. He was texting them, he was interacting with them, and when some of these women got together, they found out he was running the same exact script on them. He was sending them the same exact pictures, the same exact text. It's just easier, right? Because then he didn't get confused. He could just be telling people the same exact thing, but just multiple people. But this was easier because majority of them were virtual at that point. And so when a narcissist is using you and interacting with you in a virtual setting, makes it easy for him to be able to put on certain masks. Makes it easy for him to be able to look and act a certain way because that's all you see. You don't see anything else. This is the same exact thing that happens when you're not living together. And you think, well, it's amazing. Like, we see each other a couple days out of the month. It's absolutely amazing. This is the best relationship ever. Yeah, move in and then let's talk in 2 weeks. Because what happens is when you move in and when you're in close proximity, the mask drops faster. You see underneath the surface faster. He can't keep up the facade because at that point you're inconveniencing him. You're doing things that he doesn't like. He's like, and you start to see stuff even clearer. But you don't see this when you're in a long distance relationship, because when you're in a long distance relationship, he can continue to sell you on a reality, on a version of him that's not true. Sells you on a different version of what's actually going on than what reality would be. This is why narcissist loves long distance relationship. It's like built-in masks that just come with it. He's like, oh, phone, there's my phone filter. Oh, FaceTime, here's my phone FaceTime filter. Let me make sure I don't have anything from this other girl in the background. Yeah, that's right. A lot of narcissists like long distance relationships because they're using it to be able to cheat on you. Or vice versa. You might be the person that they're cheating on with, you just didn't realize it because he already had someone. One of the reasons why narcissists like long-term distance relationship is simply because they can have their cake and eat it too. They can find an outlet in a venue that's virtual, that's dealing with maybe emotions and pumping them up and making them feel better about themselves because someone's texting them, someone's interacting, someone's reaching out, and they're like, oh, they love me. I feel better about myself. And then he also has someone that's in person. Now, he might have multiple people, and this happens all the time, where we find guys who've been texting, messaging hundreds of women. But he's using you. That's the end result. Like, he's using you. Because what happens is the mask that gets formed gets so confusing because you don't see underneath it. This is where it's hard because he puts you in this, like, nostalgic state, the state of, like, high intensity that's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But in reality, you only know a version of him. You only see a piece of the puzzle. You only see part of what's going on because he brings out a different mask for you long distance than he does for someone else. Now, it's hard because you want to make it work. You want to have this interaction. You want to have this love and this connection. But when you start setting up boundaries or when you start pulling away, let's say you're long distance, you're like, hey, it's been a little rough. I think we should take a break. We should be friends. Well, one, he's going to use that to be able to cheat on you. And two, he's going to start trying to be able to manipulate and make sure that you don't actually interact with someone else, that you don't actually go out with someone else, that you don't have a date with someone. And like, that sounds kind of weird. Are you sure? Yeah, because he's going to be jealous over you because someone else is quote unquote controlling you now. He's losing his influence. He's losing his power over you. He doesn't like that. Narcissists love control. And it's not just control of, oh, let me just control and manipulate you. It's let me control and manipulate the story, the mask, the lie that you're believing. That's his goal. Long distance just makes it very easy because then he can sell you whatever version of reality and you have no clue if it's true or not because you're not there to verify it. You're not there to actually see the facts of it or not. So as a result, he can continue to lie and cheat and do whatever he wants to do, and you're none the wiser. Long distance relationships make it extremely hard to be able to determine what's actually true and what's actually real and what's actually going on. Especially if he's very adept as a liar, it brings you to a place where you're just scratching your head being like, I don't know. What do I do? Then he puts you in cognitive distance. Then we're dealing with the trauma bond. And yes, the trauma bond can be formed just virtually. Just long distance through the words, through the things, through the way he's like pulling at your heartstrings. All this can happen from a virtual standpoint. It doesn't have to be in person. He can still trap you emotionally, where you feel stuck, where you feel confused. But he loves the long distance relationship. How many of you right now are in a long distance relationship with a guy who might be toxic? Type in me in the chat. Just type it in, put it down below and say, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm currently struggling with this. And it's hard because you develop these heartstrings and these ties to the toxic person. You're not sure, how do I even break them? You being able to be free mentally and emotionally where you're not worried and stressed that he's going to call you and you're not going to answer and you're going to get in trouble, that you're not responding fast enough, that you're not interacting with him the way that he wants you to interact with him. Like all of these different pieces oftentimes will make you feel stress and anxiety even when you're long distance. So just understand, if you're feeling this way, that might be a sign that you're in a toxic relationship. If you're feeling all this stress and anxiety and frustration and confusion, you might be in a toxic relationship. I just want you to evaluate it. I just want you to see, like, wait a second, it's not really healthy how he expects you to text him 24/7, but he can ghost you for a week and it's not a big deal. He's going to use the long distance to be able to create the mask that he wants you to see, the version of reality that he wants to sell you on. You get sold on it, and then that's what you lock in. And when you lock in on that, you start to think that's actually who he is. But the problem is it's not. You just bought the mask. You just bought the digital version of the nice guy narcissist that's selling you a certain reality. But that reality is not actually real. Because you can't actually base it on facts. You can't actually validate it and show, oh, well, this is actually what's going on. Nope. He's just selling you a version of himself. Narcissists do this all the time. They develop different versions of themselves. And oftentimes these versions of themselves, these masks that he has, is the different masks that he puts on. And it's made up of different people in his life. People that he's interacted with, people that he's taken these characteristics of, like, that fits in better to society. I'll look like a better human doing that. That's a great way to be able to confuse this person. And he takes all these things from other people and applies it to himself, and it's a new mask. He has a new mask for you. He has a new mask for the new supply, new mask for the co-workers, new mask for the boss, new mask for everyone. Masks all around, free masks, right? Like all of these masks he's going to be putting on to be able to manipulate and control people based on the circumstance, the situation, and the solutions that he's trying to find. So understand that the narcissist in your life loves this long distance relationship because he can manipulate it, he can confuse you, and he can leave you stuck mentally and emotionally, stuck on him, while he's out partying and hanging out with someone else. Narcissists will use long distance relationships to bolster up their emotional piece, to make them feel better about themselves. When in reality, all they're doing is just simply using you, leading you on, leading you towards a relationship that right now is never going to happen, simply because he's not being honest with you, simply because he's already with another woman, simply because he's having his cake and eating it too. There's so many different levels and layers to this. Just know that the long distance relationship is prime place for him to be able to manipulate you and you to be none the wiser. So keep this in mind more as like a caution, that when we're dealing with this piece of long distance, like, you need to make sure that you know this guy. You need to make sure that you actually have stuff vetted. You need to make sure that you see the truth. You need to make sure that there's some type of checks and balance, honesty, trust, because otherwise it's easy for him to use and manipulate and abuse you. Are you stuck in one of these? If you're stuck inside a toxic relationship, you're a woman today that's stuck inside a toxic relationship, you're like, I don't know how to get out. I don't know how to, like, I've been cycling back and forth. My friends and family are frustrated. Like, I just don't know how to break free. Then I want you to reach out. Go to rawmotivations.com today. I've got a video in there that I want you to watch. And it's just a video just walking through your current situation, the things you're currently struggling with, and how I help. I'm going to highlight a couple of things that are mistakes you've probably made, things you've probably tried that just haven't worked or haven't gotten you to the place that you actually want to be. And then I want to share how I actually help you deal with the triggers, the trauma bond, establishing boundaries, helping you know who you are. Because if you don't actually build in a systematic process to move you forward, you will stay stuck. Consider this for a moment that when you stay in this limbo land, you stay in a place of confusion. When you're confused, you don't move. When you don't move, you die. Your identity gets stolen. You disappear as the version that who you are right now disappears. You become a shell of who you are. You keep walking around almost like a robotic zombie just trying to get through the day because you no longer are the confident person that you used to be. If you're struggling with this and this resonates with you right here, right now, then go to rawmotivations.com today.